Today on Carolina Week.
Both can agree that we just want peace.
1 month of war in Israel. How are people talking about the conflict at home? And Chapel Hill has a new mayor and town council. Results from our local elections.
Hey guys, come on in, grab a seat wherever you're cozy.
A Franklin Street favorite is struggling financially, and now it's asking for your help. All this and more, next on Carolina Week.
From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Hello and welcome to Carolina Week. I'm Lauren Levitt.
And I am the accidentally matching Kelly Kendall.
Chapel Hill and Carrboro have new mayors and a couple new town council members as well. CW reporter Walter Ranke is in studio to break down the results. Walter, election results are in. What do they show?
Well, in Chapel Hill, the new mayor is Jess Anderson, and it was a landslide win. The longtime town council member took an early lead in the race because of her nearly 800 more early votes than her opponent, Adam Searing. She never relinquished that lead, defeating Searing 58% to 40%. Chapel Hill also held elections for 4 seats on the town council. Amy Ryan, the only incumbent in the race, won re-election. Melissa McCullough and Theodore Nollert were also elected. The winner of the 4th seat is still uncertain. Elizabeth Sharp currently leads Renuka Saul for the final spot by only 16 votes. These results are not yet finalized, as the county still needs to certify them, so Saul could still move into the 4th spot. The race is also close enough that Saul could ask for a recount, but as of now, it appears Elizabeth Sharp has won the last town council seat in Chapel Hill. Moving on to Carrboro, Barbara Fushi will become the new mayor. She ran unopposed and will become the first black woman mayor in town history. 3 town council seats were also up for grabs in Carrboro. Incumbent Elisar Posada was reelected, and newcomers Catherine Frey and Jason Merrill won election to the other 2 seats. At the polls yesterday, the computer systems at 14 voting sites across Orange County went down around noon. Those computers are used to look up your name and address when you go to vote, a required step before you can receive your ballot. But Rachel Raper, the director of Orange County Board of Elections, told me that people were still able to vote as normal. Election officials at the affected sites had a list of paper labels that they were able to use instead. Raper also told me that the computer systems were back up and running by 2:30. Also noteworthy, this year's mayor's race in Chapel Hill set new fundraising records, but voter turnout remained low, consistent with previous municipal elections. Carolina Week's Kristen Snyder explains why that might be.
A day after elections, the North Carolina State Board of Elections says that municipal election turnout was low, mirroring the 2021 municipal elections that had a turnout rate of less than 20% of voters.
Possible reasons. So one kind of bucket of explanations is just that people don't know or don't care about the elections. They either don't know that they're happening. Local elections are particularly low visibility. And then also people might not feel that there's that much at stake.
But it turns out there is more at stake in municipal election than voters think, according to Professor Alexander. They have the power to affect important aspects of the community.
I've always thought that municipal elections, local elections, have the potential to have the most direct impact on our day-to-day lives, where how the streets are maintained, where local resources are allocated. So that has a big impact on anybody who lives within the area, within the town or the city that's holding elections.
Both UNC Young Democrats and Turning Point USA, a conservative organization, made efforts to get their fellow students out to vote, explaining the important issues reflected on the ballot.
We're talking about the ground issues that affect people the most: transportation, housing, affordability. That's all municipal. And so municipal elections are most certainly important. And for students at UNC, it's extremely important because we make sure that the campus is heard as it involves in these local issues.
It's very easy to talk about issues on a national scale, whether that be immigration or foreign policy, things that Congress controls, things that the president controls. But really, when it comes to your everyday life and things that affect you personally, I can't think of a better way to change and voice your opinion on what should happen than by voting in municipal elections.
The polls may now be closed, but the impact of local elections is just starting to reveal itself. In Chapel Hill, I'm Kristen Snyder, Carolina Week.
Now, all of the new elected officials in Chapel Hill and Carrboro will take office in December. The next round of municipal elections will be in 2025, but there could be a special election to fill Mayor-elect Barbara Foushie's now empty Carrboro Town Council seat in 2024. Lauren, back to you.
Thank you for the election coverage, Walter.
UNC has canceled its contract with the company that was hired to install license plate readers and additional security cameras around campus. According to a statement from the university, they were told on September 30th that the company does not have a license to operate in North Carolina, which prompted the cancellation. Flock Safety already provides license plate readers to police departments and universities across the state. But a Wake County judge ruled last week that Flock continues to violate state law. The law requires any company that installs cameras and other alarm systems to detect illegal activities to be licensed by the state. According to court documents, Flock Safety is in the process of getting a license, but UNC has already canceled its contract. UNC originally agreed for Flock to install and monitor license plate readers on campus in the wake of the August 28th shooting. In a statement, the university said they, quote, remain committed to working with a license plate reader vendor that will help us accomplish our safety goals, end quote. And we are continuing to ask questions of the investigation into the deadly shooting on campus. Investigators tell us they have still not found the weapon involved. No word yet on the motive either.
The Concordia United States Summit is an annual nonprofit global affairs forum. This year's event took place in Raleigh. Topics of discussion this year span from AI to economic development, but the panel about the U.S. mental health epidemic brought UNC to the forefront. Dr. Brad Stotts, who is the faculty director of the Center for Business of Health, spoke on the panel. One of the topics he mentioned was the shooting in August.
Obviously, when we get to crisis, we need to respond and we need to go to those kind of most serious of resources. But how do we make sure we're having those conversations, that it runs from orientation through kind of each step, that in the classes where it's appropriate, we're talking about, what are those coping skills individually? How do we support those around us?
Is that mental health issues deserve the same recognition as physical diseases.
Tuesday marked 1 month since Hamas launched an attack on Israel. And in that time, the death toll in Israel surpassed 1,400, and the death toll in Gaza surpassed 10,000. Worldwide, we've seen as folks from all sides make their feelings known. Our Stephen Schlink moderated a sometimes tense, often emotional conversation between two people from opposing sides. We have agreed to not share the last names of those we talked with.
Tensions surrounding the Israel and Palestine conflict continue to escalate. And that tension goes beyond campus rallies.
As I'm trying to sit down, take my flag off, some woman came up to me from behind and poured like soda or some red stained liquid at me and all over my flag.
So we brought together two individuals with opposing views and sat them down in the same room. This is Neil.
I'm Israeli American. I lived most of my life in Israel. My family still lives there.
And this is Noor.
I'm a Palestinian American. My family's from Jerusalem.
An immediate area of disagreement was Hamas.
I don't see how can someone support Hamas, an organization that is like its goal is to kill Jews. Period. Not Zionists, not Israel, Jews.
For you, as someone from Palestine, what is your take on Hamas? Is it a group that should be condemned, or is it one that should be defended for their actions?
I do not live in Gaza in particular. I will never have to live with the consequences of the actions or words of Hamas. So I actually intentionally do not answer that question for that reason.
This conflict has been building for decades. So we asked Neil and Noor to talk about what they feel people don't understand.
What happened is that Zionists physically invaded Palestinian land and claimed it as their own, physically kicked Palestinians out of their house, forced them into neighboring countries, never allowed them to return. And so I think what is misunderstood is this is not a land battle, right? This is a matter of occupation and colonialism.
I'm Jewish. I'm from the land of Judea. I don't see how native people can be a colonial force in their own land, indigenous people to the land. It does not mean the Palestinians do not have the right to self-determination in Israel or Palestine.
Following the Arab-Israeli War in 1948, many people were banned from their homes.
My grandfather, may God rest his soul, was kicked out of his home in 1948. He fled to Lebanon. He was in his 20s. His parents still had the keys to his house in Jaffa. He died at 96, never having returned.
I know that many of the Palestinians that left took their key because they thought Israel would not exist, because the Arab armies will destroy it, completely destroy it, so they'll go back. I'm not talking about your grandfather. A lot of Palestinians left because they thought, we leave, we'll come back in a few weeks.
Yes, everybody thought that they would leave and return. That's why they took their house keys.
Neil believes the way to move forward is to remove Hamas from power.
Hamas is an existential threat on me as a Jew, not as a Zionist. The same way ISIS was, and the same way the Nazis were.
A ceasefire absolutely needs to be declared. I don't know if you'll agree. The violence needs to take an immediate stop. We have seen an unfathomable loss of life.
They both want peace, and
I hope that other countries will do whatever they can to bring back the hostages. We've seen the U.S. played a major role in freeing 4 hostages.
We want those hostages to be brought home too, right?
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I want that to be very clear, is that we're not happy to see any of these people get killed, any innocent person get killed.
They both want the violence to stop. It's a sliver of common ground found in the type of conversation that can sometimes feel impossible as the world continues to yell at and above one another. In Chapel Hill, Stephen Schlink reporting.
UNC Students for Justice in Palestine also made their first media comment following the release of this story. To read that and more, visit mediahub.unc.edu.
We're going to take a quick break. When we return, some restaurants on Franklin Street are doing whatever they can to stay open in tough financial times. We share their stories after this.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill? No. You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. November 8th is National First Generation Day, a day to celebrate the first member of a family to attend a 4-year university. Our Nayeli Armillo Plata shares the story of some of those first gens here at Carolina.
Erika Mungia is a senior majoring in biology.
Hi, can I please?
And she's a first generation at UNC.
And the toasted vanilla syrup. When it comes to like first gen, like everything, like I would be like a first generation immigrant, first generation like college student, like first generation like high school student.
According to UNC, 20% of undergrads are the first in their family to attend college. Mungia said, being first gen is about paving the way for her younger sisters and generations to come, but it hasn't been easy. She learned how to speak English in her sophomore year of high school. Just a few years later, she found herself filling out her application for student aid, and she called it the most challenging process.
I remember like crying, like that was one of the most, I think, like difficult things I had ever had to do. It was like a legal document, and I was like, I don't know if I'm filling this out right.
And she's not alone. Melina Gill, a graduate student at UNC in English and Comparative Literature, is also a first-generation student and had a similar experience.
And I remember like poring over the FAFSA paperwork with my father and being like, your guess is as good as mine, I don't know.
Jill said one of the challenges she currently faces is celebrating milestones with her parents.
There's just no other point of reference, so they don't get it when I say that I passed my exams. You know, like that it means something totally different for their understanding of what an exam is.
Mungia said one of the challenges she faced was feeling pressure to pursue a major that she wasn't passionate about.
It was very much like a lure, like Like I was the little fish and that was the bait, and like it caught me.
She said she craved the financial stability she didn't have as a child. Even though her mother couldn't give her advice on her academics, she had her own way of supporting her.
Like she would always cook for me my favorite meals if I went home. She would bring them here if she could. But yeah, so she was more like very much like a moral support that I had.
Advice for first gens? They say find a mentor.
Find the heroes in the situation. I think you're like not just your academic advisors, but like professors who you're really moved by. Sit down, have conversations with them. Like, how do I navigate this system?
In Chapel Hill, I'm Nayeli Jaramillo Plata.
That's a truly inspiring story. What an amazing achievement for so many here at Carolina.
And speaking of achievements, here's another, graduating. The university has announced that the 2024 spring graduation ceremony will be on May 11th at 7 p.m., the first time it has ever been held on a Saturday. If the ceremony is postponed because of weather, it will take place at 9 a.m. on that Sunday instead. The university says it has moved the ceremony to provide a more celebratory atmosphere for graduates and offer families coming from long distances more time to return home on Sunday. However, one student graduating this year has raised concerns about the event taking place in the evening.
You're kind of limiting people who are from families who can't stay overnight. So if you have a 7 p.m. graduation that ends quite late at night, you're having families have to drive home very late, which is really hard because they can't figure out like night accommodations. They don't have people to stay with.
We've talked to some students, and while there are some mixed reactions, they're mostly just happy to have a graduation.
And a Franklin Street favorite, Linda's Bar and Grill, has started a 6-figure GoFundMe campaign to stay in business. I looked into how Linda's and other small businesses are doing.
Hey guys, come on in, grab a seat wherever you're cozy.
Chris Carini has owned Linda's Bar and Grill for over a decade. When he bought it, he knew exactly what kind of restaurant he wanted it to be.
Families, people, students, graduate students, you know, people just coming in and hanging out and doing their thing. It's a family, old school Cheers Bar and Grill.
Since 1976, Linda's has been that place. But then the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and Linda's closed its doors for 5 months.
I made sure I kept everybody's salaries where they were because they had families and rents to pay, people to put through college and kids to raise.
While it's often packed inside and out with customers, the restaurant still has debt from the pandemic. From paying workers to updating the restaurant's infrastructure to rising food costs, Carini said he saw no other choice than to ask the community for help. He's done so through a GoFundMe campaign. He said he's not doing it for himself, but for the people who call Linda's home.
I want to keep a place that everyone can be cozy in, that people feel safe in, that people feel secure in, that nobody worries about. Like, the vibe here is chill. It's not like, oh, this group goes there or that group goes there. No, everyone goes here.
One of those patrons is local real estate developer Ernie Brown. He's donated $1,000 to the GoFundMe and said it's important to keep small businesses like Linda's in the community.
I enjoyed the fact that people had scraped their names into these tables and into there, and it's kind of like left their fingerprints, if you will, on this place. And it's just kind of, to me, it's a fun little spot that you're not going to get by going to, like I said, just somewhere that's a chain restaurant. It's not more of an authentic feel.
But it's not just Linda's facing financial troubles. Purple Bowl, the family-owned acai bowl restaurant, is having to move locations because developers are tearing down this space and turning it into corporate offices. For Paula Gilland, Purple Bowl's CEO, the cost of this move is tremendous.
The expense is not just dollars, it's also time, energy, retraining. So I sympathize with small businesses in Chapel Hill.
While small businesses struggle to keep their doors open, many Chapel Hill storefronts remain closed. But it may not be as dire as it seems. According to Sarah Potter, an economic development specialist with the town of Chapel Hill, downtown is bouncing back from the pandemic.
If you look at the statistics of our unoccupied or vacant storefronts compared to other communities, we're actually ahead of most downtowns. I think we have a 90% more than 90% of our storefronts are occupied.
So far, Linda's GoFundMe has raised around $34,000 out of its $135,000 goal, which will help Linda's pay off the last of its loans from the pandemic. For Carini, it means more than just money.
But I feel like the reason why I reached out for help at the Point Right is because I don't want to lose this place and I don't want to see it be gone from the community.
There's really been a lot of widespread support for Linda's. Over 650 people have donated money, and I would sure hate to see those sweet potato tots go from town.
Well, it is such a community staple. And some more news that are affecting our city streets. Chapel Hill Transit held its second feedback session for the NSBRT, an express version of the existing NS route planned for 2029. This time, CHT is focusing on station design. There are 3 potential station concepts on the table. Participants were able to rank each design on whether its appearance was safe and welcoming, if it provides shelter from the elements, and if the designs reflect the character of Chapel Hill Transit and the town. Participants could also pick out characteristics they liked from each separate design.
What we're trying to do is pull a lot of feedback in right now to refine our 3 draft concepts a little bit and ultimately pull them down to one concept that we can then take back and show to folks and get their feedback on a final one.
If you didn't make it to the feedback session, Chapel Hill Transit is accepting feedback via survey. The survey will be open until Friday, and the link is available on our website.
One exciting thing about this is more bus routes means less time waiting at the stop. And with colder temperatures coming in this weekend, this becomes more and more important. Let's check in with meteorologist Megan Giller on this weekend's weather.
Thanks, guys. As you're headed out to class today, you're going to be seeing mostly 70s throughout the day, 76 by 3 p.m., but it's going to get a little bit warmer. We're going to be seeing some record high temperatures on Wednesday and Thursday. We're seeing a high of 80 on Wednesday, with the record being in 1986 of also 80 degrees. And on Thursday, we're going to be seeing 81 as the high, but the record high temperature was 83 in 2005. So really warm for this time of year for sure. But as we move into later this week, this warm high pressure system is going to take the clear skies with it, and there's going to be more cloudy conditions as a cold front moves through the area. And as we can see on Friday, this little bit of rain is going to come over top of us and possibly bring some drizzle into the night and into Saturday morning possibly. Throughout your 5-day week, we're going to be seeing those warm temperatures like we mentioned on Wednesday and Thursday. That rain and possible cloudiness is going to bring in some cooler temperatures as you head into the weekend. You're going to be seeing 60 and 58 on Saturday and Sunday. But that's all I have. Stay tuned after the break for sports.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Port Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug, you know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for you. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
Hello and welcome back to Carolina Week.
Basketball is back. Let's check in with Sports Extra anchor Lee Jeffries on the exciting season ahead.
Lauren, on Monday, 19th ranked men's basketball began their regular season campaign against Radford, looking to win their 21st straight home opener in front of the Carolina faithful. The Heels came out firing on cylinders, knocking down 10 of their first 14 shots from all over the court. Cormac Ryan's first 2 triples in Carolina blue found nothing but net, and Armando Bacot dominated with 8 quick paint points. But the Highlanders went shot for shot with Carolina, never trailing by double digits in the first half. The Heels eventually found their footing, closing the half on an 8-0 run with some ISO balls from RJ Davis, who had 13 points on the night. Carolina never trailed in the second half thanks to new faces Elliot Cadeau, who dished out 6 dimes, and Ryan, who dropped 13 points, shooting over 42% from 3. Radford had no answer inside for Baycott as the big man posted 25 points and 13 boards to secure his 69th career double-double. And Carolina cruised to a 86-70 victory that Hubert Davis credited to great ball movement.
Our guards just putting pressure, being able to penetrate and be able to make plays not only for themselves but for their teammates. We had 18 assists, and I think we could have had over 20. We missed a couple bunnies, and so I love the way that we shared the basketball.
Men's basketball will be back at the Dean Dome on Sunday to face Lehigh. Tonight, the North Carolina women's basketball team will debut with the season opener against Gardner-Webb. With 8 new faces, the team is going to look a lot different than it did last year. Seniors and team captains Deja Kelly and Alyssa Utsby will of course be there to lead the team, but new transfers such as Lexi Donarski from Iowa State are sure to make an impact on the court. Tonight at 7 p.m. will also tip off head coach Courtney Banghart's 5th season with the Heels. Carolina women's soccer kicks off the playoffs Friday night with a match against Towson, trying to get back to the national championship game after last year's heartbreaking last-second loss. UNC women's soccer will play Towson in their first game of the NCAA tournament at 6 p.m. on Friday at Dorrance Field. The Heels are currently ranked 13th in the United Soccer Coaches poll and earned a 3 seed in its quadrant with a 10-1-8 record. Carolina is the only team to appear in every NCAA tournament since 1982. Beating the Tigers on Friday is the first step toward our 23rd national championship, the Lucky Jordan 23 in 2023. After the amazing upset win against number 2 Wake Forest, the UNC men's soccer team will take on number 6 Syracuse tonight in the conference tournament. The last time the Heels took on the Qs in Wake Forest, they lost 1-0, but UNC was able to flip the script and beat Wake Forest 1-0. The Heels will look to Andrew Cortez and Quincy Herman to pull off another upset. Cortez had 6 saves against Wake Forest and 7 shutouts on the season, and Carolina will look to Cortez to be the defensive backbone. Herman has 9 goals, and the Heels need him to step up and be the spark the offense needs to get the points rolling. The Heels kick off at 6 tonight in Syracuse. Tune into Sports Extra on Friday for a preview of another exciting weekend of Carolina athletics. We'll be right back.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut, the one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink, or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking, now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed, better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead, catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. There's some exciting stuff going on in the area at this time of year. If you're looking for a way to get involved in the community, the town of Chapel Hill is hosting a picnic this weekend. The Thanks and Giving Food Truck Rodeo aims to bring the community together through local food trucks and nonprofits. 2 organizations, the Interfaith Council and Porch, will be collecting donations in their food and toiletry drive. The event is this Sunday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Legion Road.
And to honor Veterans Day coming up, the town of Carrboro will join the nationwide initiative Operation Greenlight. Operation Greenlight recognizes and works to build awareness of the challenges veterans face. Carrboro is joining the effort to shine a light on veterans who've had difficult times connecting with benefits after serving, and the lights will be up all week ending on the 12th. The town hopes that local businesses and residents will also participate by displaying a green light in one of their windows. A lot of exciting events coming up this week, and let's all remember that we have nearly 250 veterans on our campus. So if you see one of them, or if you have friends and family, be sure to give them a call.
And for the Thanksgiving Food Truck Rodeo, there's also going to be a live DJ and a lot of yard games. So why don't you check it out? And that does it for this edition of Carolina Week. We'll see you next time.